Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur, and today we are reliving a much more fun game. Inter Miami beats NYCFC 3-2. They break the curse at Yankee Stadium, get a victory there. I think we all feel better about that. I think we all felt good about the performance. I think there was a lot of things to like. And as we watched it, I think we learned some things about that game that we can go over today. How you feeling, man?
Much better. If we had entered international break without having to get a redemption game and having finished that Nashville game, if we would have just gone an international break, it would have been awful. And I feel like for 3 weeks, we would have just been sitting here criticizing this team. I know it doesn't change much. I know the sentiments are still probably disappointed and the result's not going to change from Wednesday, but glad that the team had at least a bounce back moment before we go on a break. And now we can celebrate a bit of a victory and whatever positives that we can take away from this game rather than dwell on the negatives. So glad that happened. Glad Inter Miami got the 3 points. Messi played like Messi, and it was a fun watch. Very fun watch on a Sunday afternoon.
I'm not sure it changes the overall attitude towards this team, but also sometimes you're just supposed to have fun watching your team, and it was fun watching your team. And so in that sense, it was a good vibe check or bonus for Inter Miami fans heading into the international break. And by the way, the next game they play is going to be at Miami Freedom Park 2 weeks from Saturday. So exciting times ahead. April 4th coming right around the corner.
I'll be very interested. Yeah, I'll be very interested to see what the situation's like around Miami Freedom Park, because the pictures do not look promising in terms of just the general state of play there.
I have no doubt that they will play the game at Miami Freedom Park, and I have no doubt everyone's seats will be honored, and everyone who has tickets will be able to go.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced the bathrooms are going to be working 100% or the Wi-Fi or anything of the sort of amenities.
Everyone will be given a pickaxe after the game and be like, if everyone could just, add one little foundation stone, we would be moving along much quicker.
Yeah. That said, I still think it's going to be an exciting, brand new experience, and I'm very excited for that. So something to look forward to for Inter Miami on the other side of the break. One thing I wanted to know before we get into this game, Tyler Hall made his, I believe, season debut for Inter Miami 2 last night. I don't need to get into how that game went. I don't want to talk about it. But I will just say, for some of the good vibes around this team, Alexander Shaw, Daniel Pinter, we've seen some from Santi Morales last weekend. There's just young guys stepping up and being able to be a part of the roster. I think that's a great feeling. And this is another guy that's under contract on the first team that hopefully will get a chance at some point this season. I think he was dealing with a couple weeks of an injury, so he wasn't able to get on the field up until this point. So hopefully he's a guy we get a chance to see at some point this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to talk about Antoine Griezmann? I don't know if you got the update, but just for the record, there was some rumors about him in Orlando City a couple weeks ago. He decided not to come, but Orlando is finalizing that deal. He flew to Orlando to do a medical, so he will join Orlando City in the summer, and you can do that if you're on an expiring contract. The fact that they got it done now, I actually think makes it a good move for them. If they were waiting and hoping in the summer to try and convince him to not leave Atletico Madrid, I think that would have been dangerous. But the fact that they're getting it over the line now and making it official actually does make me feel like good for them, and it's worth waiting for.
Yeah, good for them, man. Honestly, this league needs more superstars. It just adds the brand value. It's going to create for a very interesting derby as well. And I don't know where Orlando is going to finish this season, but they definitely need a booster to their current form, and what better way than to bring in a World Cup winner? Good for them.
Inter Miami actually plays the home leg against Orlando City on May 2nd, so we will not get to see Antoine Griezmann live against Orlando City or against Inter Miami unless it's the League's Cup or the playoffs or something. So, might have to wait for that for a little while. Okay, let's get into this game. Inter Miami, really, really hot start. 3rd minute. A nice moment where Yannick Bright and Ian Frey dribble down the sideline, get Messi involved, keep it going. Bright with a nice touch pass forward inside the box to Ian Frey, who earns a corner. And then on that corner, Messi pushes it to Talasco. Well, he puts it in the box. It gets sort of cleared to Talasco Segovia, who puts a shot on goal. He gets blocked, but it lands at the feet of Gonzalo Lujan, who is then able to slot it past Matt Freese. And so 3rd minute of this game, Inter Miami goes up 1-0, and you couldn't have asked for a better start, especially for sort of a palate cleanser and feel-good moment. Not just that it was a goal early, but that it came from Gonzalo Lujan. I mean, fantastic start for Inter Miami.
That rocket from Segovia, I wish that had gone in because it would have been a fantastic goal. But also, I thought it was Allende who'd actually shot it in because it was very sweetly hit on the first turn. And then I saw it was Gonzalo Lujan, and I was shocked, happy, surprised, but happy. And I think Inter Miami deserved that. We came out of the blocks very, very hot. There was no thought in the minds of the players to sit back and absorb pressure. We were cutting apart NYC really well, playing in spaces. And the one player who was at the heart of it was Yannick Bright, constantly making those runs, moving around, finding the pockets of space to play with Messi. And it looked very good. Deserving start. And that's how you want to get off the blocks. Get the first goal and then put the opposition under pressure. Opens the game up immediately. My biggest worry would have been if this game stayed 0-0 at the 45-minute mark. It would have been really difficult to watch. But the fact any of the teams got an early goal, I think opened up the game a lot more.
Yeah, and the fact that it's Gonzalo Lujan, man, did we just misprofile him as a player? Like, is he actually a striker? And his defensive instincts are a little miswired, but he should be in the opposition's box scoring goals, and maybe that'll be the solution to all of them.
I mean, he has more goals than our 15 million DP, so maybe.
He absolutely does. We'll talk about Gonzalo Lujan later, so I'll just keep going. 16th minute, Nico Fernandez draws a foul and then has a really nice free kick goal off the top cross post and in, tying at 1-1. So even though Inter Miami looked much better in the opening stage of the game, NYCFC draws even. And then there was just a cacophony of moments where Inter Miami does a great job of getting the ball into the box and getting a shot off, a quality shot off, in fact. And it was off by half a yard wide, or it hits the post, or it's a nice save by Matt Freese, or the defender gets a little bit of a chip in to deflect it wide. Like, just dangerous moments for Inter Miami. And it felt really good to watch that again, because that is what Inter Miami is supposed to be and it's supposed to look like. But they are unable to get the go-ahead goal in the first half. Second half, NYCFC has the moment against the run of play, 59th minute. And I want to just say kudos to NYCFC because this was a really, really nice play. Just from the back line, winning the ball through the midfield, finally ends up at Maxi Morales' foot, who puts in a tremendous through ball to Agustin Ojeda, slicing through 3 defenders, and Ojeda beats Dane St. Clair 1v1 for the goal. And so all of a sudden, Inter Miami's down 2-1. And I will say, this was not a reminder of Saturday night where they were Wednesday night where they were on the wrong side of it. It felt like the curse coming true. But it didn't last long because just 2 minutes later, Messi wins a free kick and then has a free kick goal of his own to tie the game back up at 2 in the 61st minute, helped by a deflection by Nico Fernandez. So you giveth and you taketh away. And then Inter Miami with the put-away goal in the 74th minute. Noah Allen with an excellent cross to the back post for Mikael, with an even better header into the far post on the other side to get past Matt Freese and to put Inter Miami up 3-2. And then the last moment I wanted to mention, 79th minute, Messi up to Daniel Pinter. Pinter with a nice through ball into Berterame at the penalty spot, who Berterame drags it into the far post for his first goal. Lasts about 4 seconds before the offside flag comes up, but that maybe would have made this the perfect day if Berterame got on the score sheet as well. Doesn't happen. Inter Miami gets a 3-2 win. Breaks the curse in NYCFC. It's their first ever win at Yankee Stadium, and you got to love that, and you got to love sort of the overall team performance and how everyone played.
At least Berterame got to celebrate his goal for 4 seconds. For those 4 seconds, he was the best striker in the league. You use the phrase, this is what it's supposed to look like. Sing it out to the people in the back, man. That's my biggest takeaway. I'm sure we'll get into the individual performances, which I thought were very, very good. There were a lot of good players in the pitch for Inter Miami throughout the 90 minutes. But for me, what stood out the most was collectively, the patterns of play finally started to emerge. You were seeing Messi do things where you're like, I've seen this before 1,000 times, but not this season even once. And the fact that it happened 5 times in one game, I have my reasons for it. I'm sure you do as well. But there was just something in the collective play, and we can get into it a bit more detail, that looked good, that looked effective. And the fact that we were finding Messi in those half spaces in the final third, where he could just take a shimmy and then shoot. He did that 5 times. A couple of times I thought he hit it straight at the keeper. 2 times he hit the post, and then 1 time it got deflected out for a corner. That's what Inter Miami is supposed to do and how they're supposed to build up an offense. Just constant, relentless pressure. And I really enjoyed that. The players knew what the job was. Find Messi in those dangerous positions, and up until then, just play sensible, smart, and make yourselves available. I thought everyone did a really nice job. And when I first watched that New York City goal in the second half where they went up 2-1, I was like, what are we even doing? But then again, that Maxi Morales ball it was sublime. It cut past 3 defenders. So I don't even want to blame our defenders for bad positioning. I thought it was a once in a blue moon sort of a pass that completely takes out the entire defense. So yeah, NYCFC was in this game until the last minute, but honestly, they shouldn't have been. Inter Miami far and beyond the better team.
And this is what it is going to look like, even when your offense isn't firing. And let me be clear, the offense was doing what it was supposed to be doing. It's just you had a good goalkeeper in the opposition box, and you had a couple balls hit the post, and like even in that scenario, you're still putting up 3 goals and getting a road win, and it feels great. That goal that we did allow in the second half, 59th minute, Maxi Morales cut through ball. I think in sort of ascending order, David Ajala, then Dane St. Clair, then Noah Allen would have wanted to be a little bit different in that moment, but I'm not sure anything that any of them would have done would have prevented a goal. So I'm not going to blame anyone too strongly. It was just a nice play. And ultimately, sometimes if that's what it takes to cut through your defense, you can live with that, because not many teams in this league are going to do that consistently. And by the way, if you're putting up 22 shots and 3 goals and hitting the post twice, that's okay if the other team does that, because you're still going to outscore them. So, just even defensively, I thought they played really well. The 2 goals were just really good quality moments from NYCFC, and not something Inter Miami did tragically wrong. Chip says we actually beat NYCFC in New York last year. That's true, but it was not at Yankee Stadium. It was at the bigger field that they play at, where the Mets play at Citi Field. So
now we've definitely broken the curse. There's no doubt in our minds anymore.
Yes, first win at Yankee Stadium ever for Inter Miami. Okay. Should we talk about NYCFC for a minute? Because, actually, we normally talk about the other team and how we think they're going to play, but I actually have a point to come back to. So maybe let's just get to Inter Miami. My first takeaway, they pressed a lot in that first half, and it looked really, really good. And it was sort of a subtle reminder of, why aren't we doing this all the time? Over the last 2.5 years, we were told we can't do this all the time because Busquets and Alba and Suarez are not athletic enough. And the whole point of upgrading on them athletically is to be able to do things that they couldn't do athletically, because you aren't going to be as quality. You weren't going to have the same quality. And part of that is pressing. And Inter Miami pressed high against an NYCFC team that couldn't do a ton about it. And they won a lot of balls and created a lot of opportunities. It was a reminder that, man, we've been missing this, when I think we were expecting to see this a lot more this season. I also think it engages Messi defensively a little bit more, and it puts him in a spot to receive the ball in dangerous areas. I think it's just good all around for the team, and that doesn't mean you have to press hard for 90 minutes, but certainly far more than we have been, and being on the front foot defensively. It feels like this was something we were expecting this season that we haven't gotten at all, and we really could have used it in certain situations in this season, maybe in every situation this season so far. And then going back to sort of the quality it took to break through that, it's if the other team's going to do that, okay, you're going to score a goal from it, but Inter Miami's going to outscore you by putting the pressure on you in your half of the box. It's just a lot of this game is going to be a frustrating reminder of what Inter Miami wasn't doing right in the big games we've played this season. But I'll be honest, I don't know if it's a consolation that we're here now, but it maybe does make you feel better that it's possible.
I've got so many thoughts on this, so I'll probably ask you to stop me from going off in tangents. But This was the exact point I was trying to make yesterday in the post-game Raw reaction. And my biggest takeaway from this game, or a realization that's come to mind, is that this Inter Miami team is too talented to be defined by formations and structure. Of course, formation, structure, personnel, how we play will make minute differences. Absolutely. A 4-3-3 versus a 4-4-2 tactically against the opposition. Those are thoughts that should 100% be top of mind. But this Inter Miami team is too talented to be bogged down by a 4-3-3 versus a 4-4-2 versus a 4-2-3-1. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is put the players on the pitch. The reason we suffered so much is because the mentality and the instructions differ when it comes to playing on the front foot versus playing on the back foot. Under Javier Mascherano's reign, for 95% of the games, we have played on the back foot. We constantly talked about what changed in the playoffs, and I think you raised this last year. Even in the playoffs, the 8 games leading up to the playoffs, we weren't necessarily playing the 4-3-3. We were still in a 4-4-2 formation. The structure was quite similar to a 4-4-2. The difference was how much we were pushing up and pressing, and how much we were going to the opponent's throat and trying to get the ball high up. You made an excellent point. When you press that high, when you win the ball high up, when you try to squeeze out the opposition in their own half, you get the ball. And when you get the ball in those instances, Messi is right there to make a difference. When you're trying to play further back, Messi is automatically drifting away from the goal. And when you find him in positions where he's closer to goal, he will get the opportunities that he got yesterday. So my biggest takeaway from this is the fact that Inter Miami was pushing high up. Yes, you don't need to be in a full press the entire 90 minutes, but you now have the legs to actually take the entire field at least 5-10 yards higher. And in doing that, you automatically now win the ball in a position where there's more threat. You're able to get your offensive players in offensive positions and find opportunities in front of goal. You said it, you will probably lose a couple of opportunities going in behind. You might not always win the ball. The opposition can cut back, but this team is too talented. We'll outscore the opposition, and that's how we were built to play. That was the difference in the playoffs. This entire season, we've been conservative. And the last point that comes to mind is, don't let this be an anomaly that exists in a vacuum. Don't let this be a one-off game. This needs to be a turning point to the season. None of this conversation will even matter if we go back to playing the conservative style and sit back and absorb pressure and try to hit in transition from all the way in the first phase of play rather than all the way in the third phase of play. That's where Inter Miami needs to be playing. But it will not matter if we don't learn from this. So my biggest takeaway is, yes, we found sort of a solution, but it's only going to be a solution if we actually change things.
Well, and I think the thing that is frustrating is the reason we were told we couldn't do this before is no longer there.
Exactly.
Right? I understand Suarez is not going to be an ultra-effective presser because he doesn't have the athleticism for it. I get the same thing about Busquets. I get that you don't want to overexhaust Jordi Alba by doing this, but the whole reason and the whole, like, the one thing that our new players have over those guys is that they have more legs and the ability to be rangier for longer periods of the game. And then the other thing that also upset me, or not upset me, but it was just like another realization of things we should be doing all the time is, you press high, you work harder for that, and guess what? Your players will get tired over the course of the game. And so what do? You use your bench to replace them so they have fresh legs. And you know who we haven't seen all season, or if it's in Mascherano's entire era? David Ruiz. And it's like, okay, Yannick Bright put in a really nice 75-minute shift, and he got tired, and that's okay. You put on someone from your bench so you can maintain the pressure. You don't just sit back for 90 minutes so that your players can last 90 minutes. It's an insane strategy. And it's just like the way that all of the pieces fit together works or it doesn't work. And if you take all the pieces apart, of course it's not going to work in the way that Inter Miami's been playing. But you take the same puzzle pieces and you start putting them together in a way that makes sense. And it all collectively works together in a way that you would think a professional brain trust of a soccer team at this level would be able to sort of identify pretty quickly. So yeah, like that was my biggest takeaway. You're going to create way more opportunities. The other thing is, maybe we could talk about this more when we get to awards, but like I think it's good for Messi to be like in and around the ball in an engaged way when Inter Miami's out of possession, because he understands how to take advantage of those dynamic moments in a way that other players just like will never be able to. And so you're getting the ball higher up the field, and Messi is reacting,
Exactly.
I think, positively around that. Whereas if you are under pressure in your own half, like Messi is at the halfway line in space, and it's like, we understand he's watching the game, he's figuring out how to take the best advantage of this. But if you're having those same moments where he's 10 yards from the ball in the opposition half and he only needs 3 dribbles to be shot dangerous, or there's an opportunity for him to slip someone through and be assist dangerous, like that is a better way to use the greatest player of all time.
Dude, I'm sorry. It's becoming even more clear now. The more I think about it, the more simple it seems, but also, why haven't we been doing this? All you have to do is don't wait for the ball to come to you. Go find the ball, get the ball, chase the ball. That's why Inter Miami always looks better when we're 2-0 down, because we're going out and chasing the game. Why can't we do that at 0-0?
And the thing is, if you
makes sense now.
if you do that for the first half and you get up 3-0, then you can sit back for the other half. Like you use your incredible talent advantage to get yourself big leads, and then you can save yourself in the second half or in the last 30 minutes or whatever, and not have to sort of seek out games. And you will save more time and money, more time and minutes over the course of the season.
And energy,
in my opinion. Yeah, over the course of the season, I think that would be a better way to conserve yourself. And then again, if you're up 3-0 in the 60th minute, you can start exploring what these guys on the other end of the bench start looking like. And then maybe you can even like take this up another level, because you now have more guys you can trust giving minutes to. And this is how a healthy organization works and a healthy team works. And there's so many clogs that are just not being put together in a way that, again, it's dumbfounding, really. When you really think about it, it just doesn't make sense how you're not putting all these things together. Okay. The other thing I was thinking about this in this game was like, this is a reality check from a talent perspective on this team. Inter Miami went on the road to a team that is still second in the East. I think they were on top of the table heading into the weekend. On the road, they were full strength. We were missing Rodrigo de Paul. And it's like, man, there's a lot of complaints about Noah Allen in the Inter Miami community, and like I get why those complaints are coming in, but he's a better fullback than Tavon Gray and whoever they had at left back. Like, he is a better player than those guys.
Kevin O'Toole,
thank you. And it's just a reminder that at the MLS level, you don't have great players all over the place, and so if you're a coaching staff, you have to figure out ways to be effective without that. And if you're a team, you have to be able to figure out how to win games without Jordi Alba as your left back. And Inter Miami is going to have to figure that out this season. But yesterday was a great reminder. It's like the talent level on Inter Miami is so great that you can go to other top teams in this league, and the player we are complaining about is still better than the guy on the other team. I thought the same thing about the midfield. Like Yannick Bright and David Ajala, who like I thought were good in this game, are both better than O'Neal and Keaton Parks. Like, they're just better players. And these are the guys that everyone complains about on Inter Miami. It's like, we are more talented than this other team, almost 1 through 11, potentially 1 through 11. We went on the road and beat them, and we're in control of the game, and that's one of the best teams in the league. And that's what you could do almost every single game if you actually play in a way that allows you to express yourself.
And to give more credence to your point, I thought we were better than Nashville across 2 legs as well. This Nashville team has been scoring for fun against a lot of teams. We made them look ordinary.
Sorry for interrupting.
No,
we did make them look ordinary. I still thought they were better than us and probably deserved to go through. But that is a reflection of Inter Miami's performance, more so than Nashville.
Over 180 minutes, we restricted them to 1 goal. Let's just put it that way. So if we were in full flow, I thought Inter Miami would have devoured this Nashville team. But anyways, I think that's a moot point. I'm sorry if we keep coming back to that Nashville game. That is going to be our reference point for the entire episode, I guess. But Yeah, you make an excellent point, man. The talent level on this team, we always talk about being good on paper. In some games, we just see how that plays out practically if you let them do it.
And so we think about the NYCFC team yesterday. Our midfield partnership is better than their midfield partnership. Our number 10, Messi, is better than Maxi Morales or Nico Fernandez, or whoever you want to put as their number 10. Like, you're talking about across the board, okay, maybe Dane St. Clair is not playing quite as well as Matt Freese, and that's their best player. And so midfield, fullbacks, center backs, across the board, we have more talent. And the fact that we are not seeing that demonstrate itself in just dominating play on a consistent basis is it feels to me like an organization, and maybe cut out the organization, a team that is not getting the most out of its parts, and it's sort of worse than the collection of its parts. You're right. We're just going to keep referencing this CONCACAF Champions Cup, but it was so important to this season, to this era of Inter Miami, that like it feels almost impossible not to sort of consistently come back to it. And then sort of along these same lines, the offensive urgency for this team, I thought was there for the first time this season when they haven't been losing. Right? When they went down 2 goals to Orlando City, we saw in the second half. And aside from that, I don't think we've seen it at all. Some of the numbers, Inter Miami had 22 shots yesterday. They had 13 shots over 2 legs against Nashville and only 5 in the second leg. So on Wednesday night, when they should have been trying to score 3 goals, they had 5 shots. And like, I think for this team and for any team, if you're only taking 5 shots, you should expect a goal or 0. And if you're taking 22 shots, that's when you start getting to 3, 4, 5 goal territory. And the fact that that's not how you're playing a tie against a Nashville team you're better than, you should be better than, and that you're at home and all that stuff, and that 1 goal can send you home if you don't play that way. It's just ludicrous that that's not how they played.
And I get the consequences of that game against Nashville were different. So maybe you can almost justify saying, oh, let's be a little bit more conservative. Let's not concede unnecessary goals. Let's not be unnecessarily risky. But that's not what this team is built for. If you had built this team around being conservative and defending well and stopping the opposition from scoring, if you were in Atletico Madrid, if that's what your transfer window looked like, I would have been fine with it. I would have been, okay, yes, defensive aspect is more important for this team because that's what we're built on. But that's not what we're built on. You didn't do those things in the offseason. You front-loaded your attack so that you can outscore your opponent. So that means you go into a game expecting to maybe concede chances, not goals, chances. You trust your goalkeeper, your defense to bail you out in difficult positions when you actually concede those chances. And then you trust your offense to go out there and put on a show. That's what you should have done. So if you'd done the business in the offseason that would have said, yes, we should be a little bit more defensive, we should be a little bit more pragmatic, that's not what happened, right? So, and the fact that you're scoring you're creating 22 opportunities against an NYCFC team that's sitting second in the East just goes to show that there's so much wrong with how we're approaching games and how we've been set up this entire season. Also, the East is not as good this season as it was last season. I think last season, the East was stacked and it was very, very good. I think this season, it's going to be less so. We have to make the most of the opportunities.
Upcode says, hey guys, it's the coaching. I want to be clear. We are trying to be very subtle about it,
yes.
But that is absolutely the point we're trying to make.
We're tiptoeing around it for sure.
No, like, it's just, you're right. And it feels like we could have had the same conversation in January looking forward. And the fact that the coaching staff didn't is absurd.
And I feel stupid. I think we should have had these conversations at the start. We wouldn't be...
No. Sorry to interrupt you. We were having these conversations. I remember when in middle of January, me saying, I'm a little nervous about this season because I think we're going back to the 4-4-2 in conservative style. And I was getting so much flack for being negative and pessimistic. And it's like, this is exactly what I foresaw happening. And they were not making moves, especially in the preseason. We talked about the formation a lot and how they weren't being aggressive with it. Like, we were we were on top of this, and I think a lot, and that's not to give us credit. A lot of people were surprised that we didn't come out of the MLS Cup with this new style of soccer, and that the fact that we've reverted back to the worst parts of last year in the biggest and most important games. It's insanity. And to your point, you started with this. There's a world where playing how we played for 170 minutes against Nashville is the right strategy, even for Inter Miami. But for Inter Miami, it's for the last 7 minutes of a game, not 85. Yeah. And really for Inter Miami, it should be never, because this isn't what this team is built to do. So, last thing I want to mention before we get to awards, I love the substitutions in this game. Tadeo Allende, I thought his first half wasn't as bad as maybe he will have gotten credit for. I'm sure maybe we'll talk about him again in a few minutes, but the fact that he wasn't having a good half to start the second half and you replace him with Daniel Pinto at a better half, I thought that was a good sub, and I'm not sure there have been many times in the past where we would have been willing to take off our Max Tam Tadeo Allende for an 18-year-old kid. But it worked in this game, and I think it was proof that you can do this moving forward. And then same thing in the 77th minute, Yannick Bright, I thought was getting a little tired. Replacing with Ruiz and getting healthier legs in the midfield, I thought was a good move. And you take off Silvetti and you take off Ian Frey. Ian Frey's going on Jamaica duty. I get not wanting to overexhaust him. And then same thing with Silvetti and Berterame. You can still find ways to get Berterame on the field and continue to try and get him into this team without starting him for 90 minutes in important games where he's not going to give you anything. So I also really like the substitutions in this game. I thought it worked well. Going back to the pressing early, high up the field, I thought Silvetti and Bright did a lot of work. And so it would make sense that they were getting a little tired as you get into the latter stages of the second half. And so you get them off and you get someone else that can sort of fill in the energy role, and it worked out really well. And Inter Miami closed the game out. So great substitutions. Leandro Staietano, great game, especially in-game. I wanted to give you credit for that.
Because they were tailored to the game state. They weren't premeditated.
I know.
And that's what you need from this coach. You want the team to be making changes based on how the game is going. Because you've got so many different options on the bench. And you have to make the most of the roster. Anyways, I keep calling him Leonardo, but Leandro Staietano. Well done. Good for you for getting that first dub.
Anything else before we get to awards?
No, I think we're ready for awards. I'm excited for these awards because all my awards are New York themed. And I feel like I'm going to do this more often now, where I pick a theme and then thread that across my awards.
You have my absolute approval. I'm excited to see what you cooked up today.
I don't know if they're good awards, though.
Well, if you're going to do a theme, make sure it actually makes sense. Every show, after every game, we give out 6 awards, a hair in the match, a hair in that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. And Saur, because you went first last time, I go first this time. And I'm giving the hair in the match to Lionel Messi. He scores 1 goal. Probably shouldn't have been a goal. I think he got assisted by the deflection, but also had 5 other moments where he should have scored a goal. Clearly the best player. I think him being a part of a press engages him in more dangerous areas, higher up the pitch for more minutes of the game. I think that's actually healthy for Inter Miami. That's not something I would shy away from, at least until you start, unless you see some negative side effects or anything, because you can see his tenacity if he feels like he can be an impactful. If he thinks he can make an impact defensively, he will put in the effort. And this is a way to engage him, I think, more. He was fantastic yesterday. He was just fantastic. And it's a shame he didn't have 4 goals because he was probably good for 4 goals. But no doubt, man of the match for me.
100% agree. At some point in the game, I was considering Lujan, and then Messi hit the post twice, scored the goal, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe not. Just to your point about engaging him more, I think there's a way to do it in which he doesn't have to exert himself too much. Being part of the press and pressing doesn't necessarily mean he has to run and attack the ball, because within a press, there's one person who's closing a certain position and holding a position, and Messi has been doing that. right? Like if there's three players part of that first press, there's two that one is attacking the ball, one is covering the angles, and the other one is basically covering the outskirts. So there's ways to engage him in which he doesn't have to exert himself as part of the press. And I think he enjoys that more because if we win the ball, then he just runs with it and he's off to the races. That's what you need. That's what we saw yesterday.
And because he's so smart, like by having him higher up the field, because your whole team's higher up the field, he's going to recognize when we're about to win the ball, and he's going to find himself in a dangerous space really quickly. And Inter Miami does do a good job in those transition moments of whether it's Yannick Bright today, and whoever it is, Ian Frey, like finding Messi because he's already created a pocket of space for himself to be dangerous. And then if he has space in front of him, he'll drive, he'll take a shot, he'll get to Silvetti on the outside, and the whole play can just develop in a really healthy way. And by the way, with the players on the pitch yesterday afternoon, I think they have a really good understanding of each other. Silvetti, Segovia, especially on that left side with Messi. That is one of the things I was really impressed with on the rewatch. Man, the chemistry between those three is really good. So I would continue to try and get those three on the field together at the same time. But also, just going back to Messi, it's like, I am frustrated we didn't get this performance on Wednesday night, and I don't think that's Messi's fault at all. And so it's really frustrating that we put him in a great position to be awesome in this game and that we didn't do this in the more important game. Like, it is, again, a frustration of why aren't we putting him in this position every single game to be this impactful? Because he's awesome, man. He's awesome. It's a pleasure.
Okay, heron that flew north.
Heron that flew north. For those that don't know, Florida herons don't fly north for the winter. They don't fly anywhere for the winter. So if you catch one flying north, you caught one doing the wrong thing. And in that vein, Saur, who gets it for this game?
Slightly harsh, but I think today Allende. I thought he was the least impactful player offensively in this game. Even when Inter Miami was actually pushing up a lot and creating those opportunities, he didn't necessarily involve himself as much in attack as I would have liked. I thought there was opportunity for him to be a little bit more central, especially when Ian Frey was putting the balls into the box from the right-hand side. And just overall, a very poor performance from him. I think the advanced stats kind of agree with me, but honestly, for this game, I wouldn't even trust the advanced stats because I've seen it for some other players and it just doesn't match up with the eye test. But my initial understanding of his game was kind of reinforced in the rewatch, and I agree he wasn't bad, but I thought he was below some of the other players, and I didn't know anyone else to give this to. So I think by maybe Dane St. Clair, but that could have also been a little bit harsh. He had a couple of good saves. So I ended up with Tadeo Allende, unfortunately.
I think as fans, we have a Tadeo Allende problem because I think he's been exactly who he was during the regular season last year and not been the playoff Tadeo Allende. And my expectations were that we were going to get the regular season Tadeo Allende, who had a terrible 2 months, but for the other 4 months of the season was fine and was scoring goals every third or fourth game. And like that was his impact. He would press and be high up the field. Like that's my expectation. And I thought Tadeo Allende met that expectation. He had a couple balls in. He had a moment in the 8th minute where he finds Matteo Silvetti in the box for a shot. And Silvetti kind of puts it right at the keeper, but it could have been an assist. He had a couple other moments that were good in the press where he gets the ball quickly to Messi, and Messi creates some dangerous moments. Like just being a part of the team, I thought he was he was fine, like average. But if our expectations that he's going to be this dynamic goal scorer for the play, like what we saw in the playoffs, I think we're going to continuously be disappointed every game. That said, I'm fine with giving him this award because I thought everyone had a pretty solid game and someone has to get the award. So, like, for this game, I'm totally fine with it. I just wonder, are we going to get to a point where our expectations for Tadeo Allende go back to what he was maybe in the first half of last season?
I don't think so. I feel like he set the bar too high. And to push back on your point, I thought in the last season, at this point, he was scoring for fun. This season, at this point, he's not. So I feel like there is a slight dissonance. I agree with the way we're expecting him to perform and how he is. But last season, at this time of the year, he was still getting goals on a regular basis. He hasn't even left the blocks yet. So even on the expectations, if you want to keep them muted, I don't think he's been performing particularly well. So we will need to find the right expectation level for Tadeo Allende. I absolutely agree. But I think just because the expectations that he set towards the end of the season was so high, I feel like anything he does now that's below that would be slightly disappointing. He hasn't even got a goal for us yet. So
I do want to say, though, in his defense, like I watch what he's doing, and I think, okay, if you added a goal to this performance, we'd be very happy.
yeah.
And I expect a goal from him once every 4, maybe 5 games. And when I think about what I'm seeing from Germán Berterame and the total disconnect, like it is certainly painting Allende in a better light, in my opinion, even though neither have scored goals. Like I think today Allende looks like himself if you have one extra good moment. We're talking about him having a classic Tadeo Allende game where he scores a goal. And I do feel very differently about what I'm seeing from Berterame. So I think that might also be painting my expectations a little bit.
Just to caveat this award, though, just a sec, sorry. I think this wasn't the game for him yesterday against New York because the pitch is not. It was a very narrow pitch, obviously. We know all of that, the small pitch, everything. There was no space to run in behind. That's where Tadeo Allende thrives. So I don't want to necessarily blame him. I thought Daniel Pinter coming on did a great job, which kind of made it worse for Allende because then my assumption of Allende's performance was went down even more. So I think that went against him, but I don't necessarily think this was a game for him. Sorry.
Just hypothetically, let's say Allende scores 3 goals in the next 4 games, but the other 89 minutes of his performances look exactly like we've gotten from him so far this season. I think we'll be saying Allende's having a fine season and is doing what we expect from him. So I don't think his general play has been bad. And we have seen bad general play from Tadeo Allende, and I don't think that's what we're seeing right now. It's just the goal scoring record still says 0, and I think that is something we expect from him. Okay, my first award. I am giving out the Duke of Hazard Award.
The Duke of Hazard Award. I don't think this is a reference to something, so I'm guessing you've made this phrase up.
There is a movie called The Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh.
Hazard spelled differently, but it is not related to the movie.
Okay, well, fair. That doesn't narrow it down at all. The Duke of Hazard Award, I think, goes to Matteo Silvetti because he's hazardous for the opposition when he starts flowing and playing well. And I think he needs to start in left wing every single game.
It goes to Gonzalo Lujan because he is getting promoted from Lord to Duke, first of all. And second of all, one of the things we saw so much from him last year was he kind of put us in hazardous situations. And this year, I think he's been a little bit better about doing that. And also, he creates a little bit of danger in the opposition box, as we just found out in this game. But mostly the promotion from Lord to Duke Lujan for the rescue. I think Maxi Falcone, based on the timeline we originally got, is potentially going to be back against Austin in 2 weeks. I would still start Gonzalo Lujan. I think he's earned it.
Agree. I agree. There's no reason to drop Lujan right now. Absolutely none. And this isn't like Moura where I see the performance and I'm like, oh no, Frey might be better. And this isn't like Frey where he had 45 bad minutes and then you benched him for 4 games. I think Lujan has grabbed the opportunity with both hands and has been doing really well. And I wouldn't drop him. Not until there's a need to. So I agree with you. I had the award for him. My award was, what was my award? The Times Square Billboard Award. Because it's time to advertise that Lord Lujan has arrived.
Dude, I think he's a Duke now. I think he's a Duke now.
So maybe we advertise his dukedom on the Times Square billboard because it's almost like a new signing. It's literally like a new signing.
I don't think Maxi Falcone was playing particularly well either when he to start this season, and that's fine. But so the playoff run Maxi Falcone is not the player I'm benching. It's what we saw earlier this season from Maxi Falcone. And Falcone doesn't have the track record to just automatically go back in. I think Gonzalo Lujan's playing really well, and I would keep him in the lineup. I really would.
I agree with you. And just the last point, I thought that was a good performance. Defensively solid. Don't think he was particularly to blame for the goals. He gets a goal. He scores his first goal for Inter Miami. He was the main reason that we broke the curse against NYCFC at Yankee Stadium. So well done to you, man. Whatever you're eating for breakfast, keep it up and maybe send me the recipe my way.
Okay, what is your first award?
My first award is the MSG Headliner Award, which is the Madison Square Garden Headliner Award.
I just have to say, you mentioned that you were making these all New York themed. And I sort of said that mine were sort of movie themed. And then for the last 5 minutes, I've been thinking you're going to come up with the movie themed awards. And I just thought neither of these awards are movie themed so far. The MSG Headliner Award. Is this a concert or a sports game?
Could be anything. Could be anything. It's more about the headlining than it is about the MSG. So MSG, Madison Square Garden, the mecca of sports, the mecca of concerts, all of that. This pertains to a player who's deservingly headlining.
I'm actually not sure where you're going with this at all.
You'll get it once I tell you.
I am going to go with Mikael because he also had the game-winning goal and the headline moment for Inter Miami.
No. This pertains to, let's say, if our midfield was a band, the star of that midfield for this game was none other than Yannick Bright. The MSG billboard, if it was advertising our midfield playing a concert, it would say Yannick Bright and co. Because he was the one leading the charge in the middle of the pitch. The fact that Javier Mascherano and the coaching staff gave him the responsibility to play the Rodrigo de Paul role, gave him the responsibility to be the boss of the midfield, gave him the responsibility to headline the middle of the pitch. Just goes to show the trust that Messi and co have in him, the evolution of him as a player. He's gone from being a side event, an opening act, to a background dancer, to part of the band, to now headlining the band. He's arrived, man. His evolution is almost complete. I think by the end of the season, we're not going to refer to Yannick Bright as a number 6. We're going to call him a box-to-box 8. He is the star of the midfield. He was the star of the midfield yesterday against NYCFC, and I thought he was brilliant. Especially in the first 35 minutes, he was everywhere. And I loved it, man. I loved it.
The lights are bright on the right is the award I was going to give Yannick Bright.
Oh, that's quite similar, the theme, actually.
Yeah. I felt pretty good about that one. Here's actually, you're right. The work he was doing in the opposition half, especially in the first half, was tremendous. And like, what does it say that he did the Rodrigo de Paul role in this game and Inter Miami had their most dangerous offensive game of the season? Like, what does that say? I'm not sure it's a direct correlation, but I also think as Yannick Bright, you maybe deserve a little bit of credit for that. Here's my takeaway. When he and Rodrigo de Paul play in a midfield pivot, he plays on the left as the more defensive-minded midfielder, and Rodrigo de Paul plays on the right as the more offensive-minded midfielder. I would love to see them switch for a game. Not necessarily their roles, but which side of the field they are on. Because Yannick Bright and Ian Frey have a real connection in ball progression down that right side. There was a moment early in the game, like third minute, where Ian Frey and Yannick Bright are just dribbling through the defenders. They actually get Messi involved, and Messi just gives it right back to them as they continue down the field because it looked really spicy. I thought we saw that a number of times in the first half, and this would require Ian Frey being on the field also. But the two of them, I thought, did a really nice job in ball progression through the middle parts of the pitch that, like, I don't think we've seen a ton from like a Rodrigo de Paul Frey or Rodrigo de Paul Moura connection. And I'd be interested in exploring that more. Now, you'd have to understand the entire tactical game plan to understand if you could have the right-sided midfielder also be the more defensive-minded midfielder. And if Rodrigo de Paul could still be allowed to sort of take up those advanced positions on the same side of Segovia, like I do wonder, like maybe it just doesn't work, and you could convince me of that. But I would be interested in seeing what it looks like for a game. And now that we have 3 months of games that don't matter, like it's something I would love to see for the first 60 minutes of a game, really.
I think not just starting Bright on the right-hand side, but also starting Ian Frey on the right-hand side is just as important. Otherwise, that wouldn't exist. I think that probably was the first time that we actually saw some intricate play to move the ball up the field. Usually, I think Rodrigo de Paul plays it differently. He either carries the ball or just passes it, breaking the lines in between and finding Messi that way. There's very little of it that we've seen building up 1-2s and then progressing the ball forward this season. And I think what that does is that moves the opposition backline a little bit, that forces their players out of position. And for me, what stood out specifically for Yannick Bright yesterday was how much movement he was showing. It was pass and go, pass and go, pass and go. He wasn't just passing and then standing there. He was passing it and then finding the space to make himself available. I need to see more of that. I agree with you.
Again, and that's not about Rodrigo de Paul. Like I think
No.
the reason why I suggest this is because I do think Rodrigo de Paul's game is more individual talent based, and I think he can do that from any part of the pitch. Whereas I do think what we saw from Yannick Bright was in tandem with Ian Frey on that right side.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. So that's why I would be curious to see if we can get all the pieces to fit in a way that makes that happen. Good award, very deserving. And you mentioned it, and I haven't responded to it yet. The fact that he was given the responsibility to be that player, and that is the second most important player in our team, and that's why Rodrigo de Paul does it. For him to be given that responsibility and to play it well, I thought is also telling.
Also, big comeback from the Nashville game. Good for him.
Yeah. Okay, my next award is the Grace and the Gallows Award, which could be a movie title.
It could be a movie title. The Grace and the Gallows. I'm guessing this has to do with somebody who was on the chopping blocks and then was taken away and given some grace.
Opposite,
No, Alan.
Actually. Opposite,
Oh. Okay. Dane St. Clair. Dane St. Clair.
It is Dane St. Clair. I think we've been trying to give all the new players grace and time to settle in, and I think that's the right thing to do. We've said the same thing about Facundo Moura, same thing about David Ajala, same thing about even Berterame, who, like, from this point on, like I think we want to just see him succeed and do whatever it takes to get there. But also, I want to be fair because I've been very vocal about the goalkeeping situation in Inter Miami over the last year plus with what happened with Oscar Ustari. And Dane St. Clair, just for the record, has not played well. And while we still have I'm still going to give him grace, and I'm not suggesting you need to bench him, and I don't think they're going to bench him. Like I also do think it should be said, it's been 5 MLS games, 7 games of the season, and like the numbers are starting to form a pretty unpleasant picture for a guy that I think we all expected to, once he got settled in, really like blow up and be great. We haven't seen that fantastic performance yet. I'm not even sure we've seen like a fantastic moment from him yet, which I do think he's capable of. But like I do think it needs to be said. He has not been particularly good so far this season, and that includes from sort of a shot-stopping perspective, and maybe most surprisingly and most glaringly from a shot-stopping perspective, that if this continues, not for 2 games, but for the next 3 months, and I don't really expect it to, but if it does, like, he needs to be at least sort of called out for not performing. And those are the gallows on the end of this grace. And then he has the moment yesterday where he should have gotten a red card and sent off, and like that's just the truth of it. That's not really why I'm going to crucify him, but like that also happened.
Interesting award. Good award, by the way. I like the award. I like the fact that you gave it to Dane St. Clair. I didn't have an award for him, so glad you thought of that. I think you're right. I agree with everything you said, and honestly don't have much to add. He's been average. He's been very average, and he's had some good moments, but a lot of poor moments. I don't even remember if you mentioned in your game recap the fact that he had a blatant handball and should have probably been sent off. Like it's not been the most easy watch for Dane St. Clair. And I think it'll come eventually. I will give him a little bit more grace, absolutely. But it's not easy when you have Rocco Rios Novo sitting in the back and you know that he's so good. So there's always the temptation of being like, you know what, let's just play him instead. So it's a tough place to be as a goalkeeper of Inter Miami. I'm glad that yesterday we won the game and we're able to see it out. But I agree with your point. I think the leash is shortening and our patience is going to become thinner and thinner the less he performs.
And I'm not saying this to say that I'm getting close to saying you should bench him for Rocco.
Yeah.
It's not really about Rocco. It's not really about his starting role, but it is like an acknowledgement that it hasn't been particularly good. And I like Dane St. Clair. I'm excited about what he can be. I like the idea of Dane St. Clair, and I'm excited about what he could be. But also, like, as the guy that always yells about the goalkeeping play not being good enough, like, I also feel the responsibility to make
you can't be hypocritical. Yeah,
honest about it. Thought completely left my brain just now. Okay, what is your next award?
Now I'm thinking maybe I should have given a different award for the second one because I thought you'd probably steal this one. I'm going to go for Next Stop Final Third Award. And this is a reference to the announcement made on the New York subways every time you're on. And they're like, Next Stop Final Third.
Next Stop Final Third. It goes to Noah Allen because you want to see that next stop be productivity in the final third. And you got a little bit of a sneak peek of what that could be in this game with his assist to Mikal.
I'm glad you guessed that one because I thought you wouldn't be able to. I thought you'd pick Mikhail, but then I was going to say it's the other side of that goal. No, add some subway noises to it, and I think this is a perfect award. Next stop, final third. We keep complaining about how Noah Allen has not been living up to the expectations, being involved in the final third. He's very defensive as a left back. I think things are changing in Inter Miami in the sense that our progression is coming from the right back side when Ian Frey is playing. There's a lot more impetus building out from that right-hand side. And Noah Allen is definitely not going to be as much of a ball progressor and offensive outlet as Jordi Alba was. But he has it in his locker. He has it in his locker. And that ball to Mikhail was inch perfect. It was beautiful. And we need to see more of those. We need to see more of those because at the end of the day, I think Inter Miami does rely on the left-hand side to create opportunities because Messi constantly looks in that direction. He cuts in from the right-hand side and looks in the left-hand side direction. What I will say is with Silvetti on the pitch, some of the responsibility to create in the left-hand side gets taken away from Noah Allen. And that's when you see him at his best. So you start Silvetti, you reduce the responsibility for Noah Allen to create those opportunities, and then everything just balances itself out a lot more. You have Segovia on the left in a 4-4-2, and that changes the equation because then Segovia is drifting centrally, and Noah Allen has to stretch the field out. So there's a lot that we need to figure out, but I'm glad that Noah Allen showed that he has a nice cross or two in his locker. Next stop, final third. Let's get there.
What you just said about putting Silvetti on the left, it's like, yeah, it takes away the responsibility to be getting forward of your left back. And if you don't have a superstar left back, you need someone else to take the responsibility. And oh, by the way, it also opens up space in the middle for Messi and it makes him a more effective player. It's like almost as if the pieces all fit together if you just play them. So, yeah. I don't think it takes a couple of knuckleheads to... Like, I don't think we're geniuses. I think we're knuckleheads. And if we can figure this out, I think it's an indictment on those who can't.
And honestly, like, having Jordi Alba in the team was a unicorn situation You're not going to get that ever again. So I think there needs to be a change in mindset about how the left side creates. Silvetti has to have the primary responsibility. It can no longer be the left back doing those. Just in the same way that on the right hand side, Ian Frey shouldn't be the one creating those opportunities. There will be moments where we need Noah Allen to overlap and Silvetti to undercut, but that chemistry needs to build. The understanding needs to build. It's a shared responsibility. That's how I think we get better on the left hand side.
And to the point we talked about earlier, like in NYCFC is a good MLS team. Their fullbacks aren't better than Noah Allen, and they can still find ways to create offense and win. It's like you have to be able to figure out how to win with the guys you have, and you can't be a coach and say without Jordi Alba I can't win, or without the best left back in the league I'm incapable of winning. That's not an excuse that flies. So for everyone that wants to criticize Noah Allen, I hear what you're saying. Your understanding of how Inter Miami wants to play is not wrong, but the blame should be on the tactical setup for relying on that type of play to win. And you know, when Sergio Reguilon comes back, maybe you can shift back into that type of play.
Yeah,
but if you don't have Sergio Reguilon, you can't rely on that. You have to find a different way. And the fact that it's after our most important tournament and we just are seeing that, it's criminal. And the more criminal thing, I think, is I don't expect it to continue. I think we're going to go right back to the next, we're going to continually try and make the other thing work that just doesn't work. Some other thoughts on some other players. We're going to wrap it up soon, but I thought Ian Frey just showed at this moment in time he's the better right back, and he should be starting important games. I think him not starting in that CONCACAF Champions Cup legs against Nashville is something we're going to look back on the whole season and wonder how the hell that happened, just like we did last year with Redondo and Yannick Bright. Mikael doesn't get an award, but a really good performance, and happy for him to get the goal. David Ajala.
Sorry, I had an award for Ian Frey. It was the New York Stock Exchange Award because you should invest in his stocks. They're going up. He's phenomenal.
I like it. David Ajala, I do want to say this. He's played 2 games. This was his first start with the AA roster. So this is not a judgment, but like to anyone saying he should be starting in this midfield, I'm sorry, he has not put that on the field yet. And for whatever the coaching staff's thoughts and faults on sort of player evaluation, Yannick Bright and Rodrigo de Paul have clearly outplayed him so far. Now, again, that was Ajala's first game. I'm not writing him off. I hope he becomes fantastic. I don't think we've seen that from him so far. And in fact, I think he's been much closer to sort of David Ruiz's level than Bright or RDP. So hopefully we still see the best from Ajala. And again, I would like to see him start 2 out of every 4 games or something like that. But I don't think he's done anything so far to sort of earn more minutes. I think he's been just fine. Anyone else you want to talk about?
Segovia, I don't know if we've touched on him. I thought, again, a good performance, a very good performance from him. We've done the full back line, midfield. We've covered every player. Well, Pinter coming off the bench looked very bright. I thought he was very good. Berterame, good movement on that ball from Pinter, by the way. I thought he was drifting too much into the center, and then he just pulled back slightly, and that's when Pinter put the ball in. Unfortunately, an offside, but at least there was some sharpness there. I really hope he scores, man. I feel bad for him because he's such a hardworking player, and I hope the goals start flowing soon. But other than that, I thought a very positive game from Inter Miami, and we've honestly touched upon a lot of it. I don't know if we've spoken much about New York, so maybe we can spend a minute about them, given that they're still ahead of us in the table. But
one last player I wanted to shout out was David Ruiz. He has just been out of the picture since Mascherano came in. Him coming off the bench for 15 minutes at the end of the game to be a defensive, like an energy legs replacement, I think is a nice role for him to start earning more minutes. And I wish we would do that more. Again, press high, win the game early, score a bunch of goals early, and then when your guys get tired, like you have enough quality on the bench to take them out. And I thought this was a really like good example of you asked Yannick Bright to do a lot of work. He did a lot of work and he got tired. And so you take him out and you put in David Ruiz, and guess what? He helped you see out the game. And like I thought was like good for what he was being asked to do. So like shout out to David Ruiz, and he's another guy that I think we need to see more of.
Yeah.
NYCFC. Listen, they have their best players got a torn ACL, and I think he's supposed to come back at some point this season, so they're not going to use the season-ending injury list thing, which would allow you to bring in another player to replace him. So until Alonso Martinez comes back, I think they're going to be a solid squad. I really like Pascal Janssen, but their midfield and defense I think is kind of meh, and so it's not the type of team I would be interested in, or like I would be super worried about. You have any thoughts on NYCFC?
Sorry, I was just putting my thoughts together. I thought they were decent. I think I'm not going to use that phrase because it's slightly rude, but I think they're slightly being flattered by the table right now. They're eventually going to average out. The games that they've played have been easy-ish, and playing against 10 men is definitely different. Good for them for getting the results. I think they're going to be a solid playoff team, and maybe come playoffs when they have their main player back, they look slightly different. But again, solid team, good identity. But I think Inter Miami did the job yesterday, and I'm just glad that we came out of it with the victory, because I think on paper we're just uber talented compared to them. So glad that the curse was broken. That's all.
Quickly at the end, I wanted to get to some of the interesting questions that happened throughout the chat, or that I was starring along the way. Upcode says Mascherano, by the way, did the press conference, the coach's press conference after the game yesterday. Not sure I love that, but he said he made a statement that playing with two wingers, Allende and Silvetti, was sort of a strategic decision just against this NYCFC team. So like it was just the kind of comment that makes you think, man, we are so going back to Mascherano's brainchild when the situation is right for it. So again, just like as good as yesterday was and fun, if I actually believed in it, this would be a different conversation. But I just don't believe that this coaching staff is going to sort of move in that direction on a permanent basis. So it is hard to get excited about it. Yeah,
it's so frustrating and so disappointing, man. And I'm going to reserve my comments until we actually see us revert to whatever we play with Mascherano on the pitch, because that's when I'll truly let go of my emotions. But doesn't put me in a lot of hope that Inter Miami is going to try this new style, or just even change their mentality when it comes to approaching some of these games. It will be a little bit more conservative, prevent the ball from going into the back of your own net rather than scoring.
And again, like even if they come out this way against Austin, it's not going to make me feel better, because I think when they get to big games, they're going to revert back. So it's like, okay, you show me in the Leagues Cup, fine. You show me in the MLS playoffs, maybe. But until then, I just don't have faith that that's what you're going to do, because it is Mascherano's instinct to play conservatively. Mr. Manny says, Scotty, why were the podcasts about last night's win on the sort of negative side? I think it's the point we're trying to make is yesterday showed us what this team could be. And the fact that we don't get this when it matters is super depressing. And I think maybe that's all I'm going to say.
No, the Nashville game is going to be the marker for this entire season. Until we do something to overcome that and to change the feelings around that game, I don't think anything we do over the next 3 months is going to matter at all. At all. It's always going to come back to why couldn't we do this against Nashville? And that's where the team has put itself in a position, a hole, to be precise. They've dug themselves that hole by playing the way that they did against Nashville and then losing in the first round. So I think the criticism is justified, the negativity is justified, and everyone processes the frustration, disappointment differently. So if you want to be positive about yesterday's game, that's perfectly fine. I think there were a lot of good positives to think about, but I think there's still a lot of negative in the sense that why couldn't we replicate that against Nashville? Anyways.
Yeah, and we'll end on this one because I think this is a little spoiler alert. You and I are going to do a top 20 draft of the best 20 players on Inter Miami at some point in this international break. And Mr. Manny says, among the new signings, he thinks Reguilon is the guy who showed the most class. Do you agree? Let me just read them out for you so you have them all. Sergio Reguilon, Facundo Moura, Dane St. Clair, Mikael, David Ajala, Herman Berterame, and Luis Barraza. And then you can throw in Pinter and Alexander Shaw as homegrowns. Man, we were really hyped about this offseason, and I don't see a ton of impact in that list of just real impressive players.
For me, Mikael stand out. One who's seamlessly blended into the team and is clearly an upgrade on any centre backs that we have. And I think has shown his class as well. Scored a goal, so clearly has a head on him and can do things on the other side of the pitch. But that's it. Pinter, Alexander Shaw, I don't think were necessarily signings as such, so I don't consider them in that way. But I think they've shown good promise. But in terms of class, the sample size with Reguilon is too little. But what we saw in glimpses was really nice and fun. But unfortunately, the question is, how much are we going to see of that this season?
I think the thing with Reguilon is he's the one guy you're like, this is a different class of player. And I actually think this is a really interesting conversation. Everyone they signed right there, David Ajala, Herman Berterame, Mikael, Dane St. Clair, like these are MLS, CONCACAF proven good players. And they came here and immediately were not impressive. I'll give Mikael the most credit out of any of them, although I don't think he's been like a superstar yet. I think he has that in him. But they were all MLS proven good players, and they've come here and not looked like MLS proven good players. And I think there's probably something to be said about why that is across the board, not just, it's not just one player adjusting to the heat of South Florida or something like that. It is across the board. They've been disappointing. And I also think the story there is that the Inter Miami roster is filled with super high-level MLS players, and that if you're getting playing time for this team, you are a super high-level player. So why does it not look like you have the best roster on the field every single game? Because you do have the best roster on the field every single game. And it goes back to the coaching.
See, guys, this is what happens. You set Scotty off again.
But do you think what I'm saying is my...
No, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right.
Okay, guys, maybe we should end it there before I really, really lose it. I've accepted.
I think this has been a good episode, man. This has been a good episode. We've kept our emotions in check. We've not harked back too much on the Nashville game and tried to get some positives out. And it's going to be a while since until we do another episode dissecting again. 2 weeks. So, yeah.
And that will be, I think, an exciting environment atmosphere game too. Do you want to go with this one before we head out? I won't even read it out loud if you don't want to.
Messi is 100% the reason that Mascherano is still here.
Mr. Mani says, is Messi the reason Mascherano is still here? I actually don't necessarily agree with that. I think our ownership group wants to give the coach a long leash, and I think they demonstrated that with Phil Neville and earlier points in Inter Miami history. So. And I think that is a generally good thing. It's just
I agree.
It combats with the urgency of the Messi era
of this time, yeah.
And that is frustrating. So, okay, guys, we'll be back sometime this week. But it is the international break, and so you get to go watch your favorite teams go battle out on the international stage. And Inter Miami has 11 players that are going to represent their country in some form or fashion. So that is great for them. And some guys getting their first call up or their first call up in a while or something like that. I think Ian Frey plays for a chance to go to the World Cup.
Yeah.
With Jamaica. They're in the final, trying to win one of the final spots. So that's it. International break. The first part of the season's over. Kind of a disappointment, but at least it ends on a fun game. So we'll see you next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.